Braxcast time once again, and I am finally back. Hopefully, you guys missed me. I certainly missed doing Braxcast, and while I was away, there's a bunch of stuff that happened. Of course, I talked about it during my first Braxcast live back. That was about an hour long. Absolutely fantastic. Didn't have as many people show up because I was off of the schedule, but hopefully, as I get back into it, people remember to show up. But if you didn't, it's no big deal. I'll be returning to doing live streams Friday at 6 p.m. I think that time is still going to work for me with the new schedule that I have up here. But enough about what I was doing or what I will be doing, but let's talk about the Rippaverse, because there's been a lot of stuff that's happened with the Rippaverse. And I think the biggest announcement that we've had is, of course, the launch of Norfrica, Glorious Death. Of course, this was announced during the Rip reveal, and we had so much anticipation with this book coming out. Of course, it was a book that was not confirmed for a long time. Basically, ever since Item number 1 came out, we saw Norfrica at the very end of Item number 1. Fans wanted a Norfrica book, and that is finally happening right now. This book is just under $200,000 in the collection, over 4,000 books sold, so it is doing quite well. This is definitely a niche of a niche, because heavy metal is definitely a niche within the comic book niche, but I think this is going to do very, very well. And I don't have all the individual covers printed out, but I do have one with all 4. This little promo image. And cover A is, of course, done by Kanan White. Cover B is done by Gabriel Icano. Katarina Kalimio did cover C. And D is the mass print cover by Yevgeny Sokolov and Jesse Higgy. All fantastic covers. I covered them all on Braxcast Live. Especially love Kanan's cover, and of course I love cover C, being that foiled and embossed cover. Excuse me. That foiled and embossed cover absolutely looks absolutely fantastic with that portrait of that platinum hair beauty sitting on the throne. But one thing is that we don't have a retro cover for Norfrica number 1, and that is something I'm very disappointed in. So hopefully we do get a retro Norfrica cover throughout the limited series at least. So with Norfrica number 2, hopefully we get a cover B that has retro cover, because those are absolutely my favorite covers, and the fact that we don't have that is definitely a little bit disappointing. But there's more to talk about with Norfrica, and I think one of the best things that came out of Norfrica is, of course, the single Glorious Death. Of course, the book itself is Glorious Death, and a single was released the day the collection came out, along with an animation for the music video, basically an animation music video, and then a music video made by Eric July and Dan Vasc, who are the 2 lyricists and singers on that song, and they do a fantastic job. I've listened to this song a bunch. It's a really bass-heavy, it's not like really metal, but it definitely feels more like hard rock than like a true metal song, which is more up my alley since I'm not the biggest metal fan. I do like Veracity. That's Backwards' first and only album so far. Of course, Backwards is supposed to be coming back. They've made a lot of music, but Eric's been really busy with the Rippaverse to focus on Backwards. But it's really cool that we are getting vinyls. Of course, I got the I Want It All for this one, and I did use my Zalen code to get 60% off of that, so that's what made it affordable for me. And I will be getting these vinyls. I'll probably get a record player, and I'll play these on Braxcast Live just for fun. But these are absolutely cool that you're doing vinyls. I believe one of the stretch goals is cassette tapes as well, so hopefully we hit that. But getting the vinyls is a really cool thing, and of course, I mean, this cover art is absolutely fantastic. I believe this is Ronaldson Freire who drew this, who is the interior artist for Norfrica Glorious Death, and Andrew told me how to pronounce his name. It's Freire, so I'll finally be able to pronounce his name or his last name. And then don't know exactly who did the cover art for this, but this is absolutely epic art. Love these 2 selections for the vinyl cover art. Of course, it's going to look really good because these are going to be regular 45s, it looks like. Might be 33 and a third, but it does look like these are going to be regular 45s, so they'll be nice and big. And do have one like this, so it'll probably be something like this size. Of course, Beatles vinyl, so probably going to be a size like that, which is really cool. But I'm going to put that to the side there, and we're going to talk about the interior art. So we've got some interior art from Norfrica that was revealed. Of course, we have this elf-looking character that seems like he can fly. Looks like he's able to shoot fireballs as well. We don't know his name. Typically, if we had the retro cover, his name would be on the front cover, but since we don't have the retro cover, we can only speculate on what his name is. I believe it was not something that was on the log line, but it's been a while since I've read it, so I could be wrong on that. But the really interesting thing is you're going to want to listen to Glorious Death, the song, because if you know, with reading Item number 1, they explicitly say that their lyrics are not make-believe. So the lyrics of the song are going to correlate with what goes on in the comic, not just this first issue of Norfrica Glorious Death, but the rest of this limited run. I imagine it's going to be Norfrica Glorious Death, maybe 4 issues, and then if it does well enough, and I think it will, probably going to have either another limited series or even an ongoing series. I think an ongoing series from Norfrica would be extremely justified given how much the fans love Norfrica. And since this 64, this is going to be a 64 pager, if you keep up with that length, I think it's something that Eric keep in rotation with Isom and Saoirse, I should say. But that is that bit of art right there. Next, we've got this Gandalf-looking character. This is, of course, looking like a one-page spread. Looks pretty cool. Probably one of Valadon's maybe enemies or allies. Really hard to say, but Ronaldson is really knocking it out of the park with this absolutely fantastic artist. And he did do, for the Rippaverse calendar, 2025 calendar, he did do a pretty epic drawing of Norfrica, Valadon, and Takari fighting some monster. And that was, I guess, a little bit of a teaser as to what he was working on for the Rippaverse. So, really fantastic art. Absolutely love to see it. And I think of the preview pages that we have, this is absolutely the best. I mean, this looks, interstellar. This looks like they're in Valhalla or something like that. Kind of reminds you of the way, if you look at the MCU, where they're traveling through Yggdrasil or traveling in Asgard on the Rainbow Bridge and stuff like that. Very celestial, very otherworldly. And this is what all Norfrica is going to be about. And this is what's going to make Norfrica really interesting, is that this is going to give us a really good insight into the supernatural and otherworldly aspects of the Rippaverse. I think even more so than Bloodroof and Yaira have. So this is one that is really hotly anticipated for me for that reason. Not necessarily because I'm a metal fan, but the fact that, they're masquerading as a metal band, is also going to make this a really interesting thing. So I think there's a lot of really interesting concepts that are being mixed together in Norfrica. And I think the fans are going to absolutely love this. And when you got art like this, I think it's going to be hard for it to not be a slam dunk. And next, we've got just so much stuff to talk about. But Rippaverse Day happened while I was on hiatus. I believe July 11th. That was the day Item number 1 launched back in 2022. So it's been 3 years already, and they've already done so much. And to celebrate this Rippaverse Day, so the first Rippaverse Day that was celebrated back in 24 was the $5 sale. And that was a really cool thing that they did. But to celebrate Rippaverse Day for this year was the release of the Rippaverse omnibus. So this is over 1,300 pages, and it's collecting the first 3 years. Basically going to collect Norfrica Glorious Death, Isom 1 through 3, Great War Separation 1 to 2, Yaira 1 through 3. Basically everything that's going to be released up until this year, most likely. That's going to include Horseman number 1, some stuff that hasn't exactly come out yet, but is finished, and that's going to be released this year. I believe it's going to fulfill in the last quarter of this year. So really cool stuff. Both of these covers are done by Kane and White. This one that shows the solo shot of Isom is the collection exclusive, and this is the mass print, which I think is the better looking one because it's got the the group shot of basically a bunch of heroes and villains of the Rippaverse, and it looks absolutely epic. And of course, Kanan White, the art director for the Rippaverse, did both of these covers, and as with everything he does, he absolutely smashes it out of the park, and they're just so good to look at. And there are signed versions of these, but these aren't ones that are as collectible for me, since they are collected editions, and these are going to be big, thick books like the Invincible Compendium. I don't have that on me, so I can't exactly show you guys, but it's going to be 1,300 pages, so it's probably going to be like 20 pounds or so. So it'll be a nice coffee table book, but it's going to be a bit impractical to like read it in bed or bring it with you to read. But for $150 for this one and $170 for this one, the amount of content that you're getting, you just want to get in on all of them and have it in one book. It's probably a pretty good deal versus buying all of the books individually. If you just want to get in on the Rippaverse through one purchase, it's probably going to be the way to do it. And this is the one that's going to be on the store in perpetuity. And this one will be available for the rest of the collection period. It's made about $26,000. So I think fans are like, most fans are like me, ones who are like, well, I've already bought the stuff that I like and it's a bit expensive to get this. And it's not as collectible as individual issues are, which, you know, kind of turns off the collectors from getting in on this. So that's that there. But I think the last and really exciting thing is we're having another collaboration between the Rippaverse and Iconic Comics. So, of course, Iconic Comics does Common America, along with a slew of other properties, including Soul Finder, Black Hops, I forget, but they've got a lot of stuff that they do. And one of the things that they do is the Bell County Comic Con, and that's in the Cadence Bank Center in Belton, Texas. And that's going to be from August 2nd to 3rd. And the Rippaverse is going to be there. So there's going to be the Rippaverse and Iconic Comics at Bell County Comic Con this year. I believe Air July. A lot of the Rippaverse team is going to be there. And since this is taking place in Texas, it's in their neck of the woods. So it makes absolute sense that they would do this. And considering that they have a really good working relationship, which is always really nice to see in the indie comics scene, where people are actually getting along and doing cool stuff together, that the Rippaverse is going to be at Bell County Comic Con. So that'll be really cool to see. Of course, I just moved here, just got a new job. I have no ability to travel halfway across the country while I'm still getting myself figured out here. But if you do go to Bell County Comic Con, just know that you'll be able to see the Rippaverse crew and the Iconic Comics crew together. So that's going to be really cool. I believe there's going to be an after party as well, which is really cool. So absolutely fantastic stuff to see. Love to see the Rippaverse keeping on with the con, I guess, rotation, because they've been to a bunch of cons. Of course, MegaCon, we could definitely get a big announcement next weekend, and I imagine that would be the case. Hopefully, we do get Alpha Core number 2 soon, but if we don't get any announcement, I'm sure it's all going to come out eventually, because there's just so much cooking at the Rippaverse, and I'm going to be covering it all. But before I go and sign off, I do have some graded copies of comics. So we got Zalon, What Kills Must Die. This is, of course, cover B. Absolutely love the retro cover, so I decided to go and snag one of these when that collection went on sale for Zalon Great War Separation 1 and 2. I chose 4. It's very selective. I couldn't buy them all, even though I wanted to. It just wasn't in the budget. So I went with Zalon cover B. Zalon cover B and Zalon cover C. But this is the cover. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, you got that beautiful signature by Chuck Dixon over there. And next, we've got Great War Separation number 2. Of course, this is the copy that was my reading and review copy. Absolutely, like I said, I love the retro covers. They look absolutely fan-flippin-tastic. And I definitely love the fact that, you got all the villains, Absolute Zero, Newt, I believe that's Rojo there. And of course, the war is over for someone, but who? But if you read the book, you know exactly who that is. But I'm not going to spoil that because people are still getting their Great War Separation 2 books. Next, we've got Great War Separation number 1. This is, of course, another 9.8. This is the retro cover featuring Zeno. Absolutely love the character Zeno. Of course, I do believe he makes an appearance at the end of Great War Separation number 2. just like he did at the end of this first issue. So his role is being teased, but I imagine in 3 and 4 he's going to have a really big showing, and he's going to be pretty instrumental into how Great War separation goes on, which is going to be really, really interesting to see. But for now, he's much more of a minor character, but I imagine he's going to be a major character in the second half of Great War separation. But this is the final cover. This is Joe Bennett's cover C for Zalen, What Kills Must Die. This is the foiled and embossed cover. An absolutely beautiful shot of Zalen. I love his character design. I love Zalen as a character. Hopefully we do get more of him. But for now, we do have this one book, of course, the graphic novel, which is 80 pages or so. And this is an absolutely beautiful cover, which is why I went and got the graded copy. And this is a 9.9, almost a perfect 10, but just a little bit off. But hopefully you guys enjoy this episode of Braxcast. So I certainly am back. And of course, always go through these things really quickly. So hopefully you were able to follow along, and hopefully you keep following along, like, comment, subscribe, all that fantastic stuff if you want to keep up with the Braxcast and of course everything I do over at Velvet Room Publishing. But I got nothing else for you guys. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.